2003 Crownline LXP. This one's gonna need quite a bit of work, so just kind of quickly give you a tour. This is all gonna be rewired. We're gonna be adding a second battery to it. I'm gonna try to see if I could go to a 5-channel, that way I can run all 4 speakers and a sub with the system. I'm a little concerned. I don't know if that's, I can smell quite a bit of gas, so I'm gonna go ahead and address that with the owner. We're also gonna be removing the washing pump, but yeah, I went ahead and ordered a couple of parts just to kind of get everything ready. I'm still debating on either replacing the alternator charging wire to a little bit bigger one and then routing it to the battery. Also going to be running new speaker wires and kind of addressing stuff like that. The main issue was everything under here, and as you can see, it's just kind of not sure what they all even are, and it gets pretty bad right at the dash area as usual. So I'm gonna try to go in reverse. Here's what it looks like underneath. I'm gonna try to address as much as I can that doesn't even really need to be here, but I'm gonna go ahead and remove this panel right here. Oh, I didn't know it was that loose, but we're gonna address that too, see what we can do to fix it. That way, yeah, that way everything's gonna look good, function properly, and then pretty much look presentable. I'll keep you updated on what we find as we go, but other than that, we're gonna be keeping that Kenwood Marine radio. We're gonna be pretty much running this one, these two, and then these to an aftermarket amplifier. That way it'll sound pretty good in here. The 2 fronts, one on each side, are going to be running directly on radio power. So other than that, I'll keep you guys updated and then go from there. First thing I had to do was to remove the 4-way switch. I'm going to go ahead and start marking all these because I'm not sure what they're powering or where they're even going to. Like this one, I'm not sure where that thing's going to, so that's the first thing we have to do. I believe some of these are just lights, I guess, but then some of these are obviously for speakers, which I'm not sure why they'll be running this way. But like I said, we're going to be addressing that and then pretty much rewiring it and remove that to clean it up a little bit. I did notice this bundle right here was pretty much on the exhaust pipe, so as you can see, it shows a little bit of melting situation here, so I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie that up to a harness, like maybe somewhere right here. Just zip tie like that, that way, just to kind of move it away from anything hot such as an exhaust. And you also notice like some of the wires right there just kind of leaning on the exhaust itself, so that's also going to get addressed. Fixed all that just to kind of tidy everything up. Other than that, like I said, I'm going to be marking everything as I remove stuff that are unnecessary. I believe this is the alternator wire, which, like I said, I'm going to try to upgrade to a bigger one. Hopefully it charges a lot quicker. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mount the bus bars that I ordered down here, 2 of them, positive and negative, and then the 4-way switch right here, and then a little bit of a in one of those 6-way fuse box, the marine fuse boxes. That way I can try to eliminate some of these and then run all that to that fuse box. Makes it a little bit cleaner. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this and then see if the customer wants a 5-channel amp in replacement to power all 4 speakers in a sub. And then yeah, let's get to it. Here's the progress so far, and like I said, all I did was remove power to it, since I did smell a little bit of gas and there's a pool of liquid, which I'm assuming is gas. We're gonna go ahead and pretty much try to identify as much as I can. I did notice that this one is for like some kind of lighting, which is no longer in place anyway, so it's all been cut, so that's coming off. But overall, this is where we are so far. quite a bit up there, so that's all gonna get addressed. Once I pretty much identify what's going on, then I can move on forward. Here's the current progress so far. I'm still searching, tracing, and pulling some of these wires, trying to figure out where they even go. I believe these are, I guess, for the stock speakers back then. So I'm gonna leave that and make sure with the customer where they go. I already took out the speaker wires that were ran. Pretty much everything is ready. I still need to take those off. Got a lot of zip ties off, take off all the radio stuff, and then pretty much we'll start running some wires in here if we don't find any more issues. I'm gonna start removing this system as well. That way it cleans up this area a little bit. Like I said, I still don't know where this thing goes, so I'm gonna trace that. If it doesn't go anywhere, I'll just zip tie it, and then at least it'll be here for future use. But I still need to take off that water cleansing pump deal. But overall, it's starting to look like something, so that's a good thing. We're gonna be addressing some of these little things later on. Like I said, I still need to zip tie this, make sure that wire doesn't touch the exhaust. But yeah, we're still waiting on parts, but we'll keep going. I'm not even sure what this one is, but we'll figure it out as well. It's Father's Day. Everybody's still asleep. I went ahead and got in the boat just to kind of get ahead on pretty much practically removing just about as much as I can that's not either plugged into anything, wires dangling, or just unnecessary bundles of wire that needs to come off anyway. I cleaned up just about as much as I can today. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up more under the dash a little bit. I'm waiting on the customer to let me know and make sure a few things before I pull any more wires. But so far this is what I removed. There's going to be a lot more once I'm done with it, but just to kind of give you an update on where we are as we proceed on fixing everything in this boat. Windy day in Kansas today. We're going to go ahead and keep on moving with the boat. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of direct solder these two, that way it doesn't look like a mess. These are for the ambient lighting that's inside that panel, so we're just going to tidy it up and then pretty much do the same thing on the other side, and the lighting will be done for this boat. Just to show the difference, this is the done part. This one I still need to redo, but I wanted to show you what it looks like before and after. Like I said, this is the old, this is the new. So this one's pretty much done. I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie it, secure it, and things like that, but it's pretty much sealed compared to what you had before, all open connection. So this one's a lot better. Customer wanted the cleaning pump removed, so we're gonna go ahead and pull all the wiring off and pretty much remove that system itself, since it's not going to be needed anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and trace the wire, pull it out, and pretty much include it in the trash bin. It's about 8:30 here now. I'm still kind of taking off some stuff. I'm taking off the washing pump. Hopefully that will clean up everything. I did have to soak the screws that they used since it's so rusted in there. Once I have everything on, I'm going to put a little bit of silicone sealer in it and put back the screws. That way it doesn't start damaging the floor. But I will put some silicone sealant on it once everything is pretty much put back together. But so far here we are. It's starting to look a lot different now that we are lessening the wire. I believe this is the alternator power wire, and then the other one was going to that little control box, so that's going to be one of the last ones to come off. But overall it's kind of going smooth. It does take quite a bit of time to do this, so hopefully whoever installs things like these in the future kind of do it right the first time, so people like me don't have to go back and redo everything. But we will keep chugging on it, working on it, and eventually we'll be done. So it is now 9 o'clock at nighttime. You can see it's time to shut off for now, kind of continue in the morning. But As you can see, it's starting to look a little bit different. The less the wires in there, the better it's starting to look. But we still have quite a bit of work to do with this thing before we can even install the amp and sub and things like that. So stay tuned. We'll continue in a different day. We've gotten quite a bit of water here from raining in Kansas. So I'm going to go ahead and drain the inside out. Here's the drain bolt. Just go ahead and take it out. Once you're done, put it back in, put a new seal on it, and call it a day. Just to show how much water really is in there. Take it out. Leave the drain in here. We'll let that drain out. That way there's no water in the boat. Pretty much under the dash right now. We are going to kind of shorten all of these. Not really sure what they're going to, but I will trace them. As you can see, it's like so long that they just kind of bundled everything up in one big ball. So I'm gonna just shorten it, seal everything, and not use any of these open barrel crimp connections. It'll be more of the heat shrink type, but we're also going to wire up the front speakers at least. That way that will be ready to go, and run the RCAs, all that jazz. But this is the main concern right now, so just kind of clean this up. So I'll show you what that looks like. Got the wire kind of shortened a little bit, so it looks a lot better. Once everything is zip tied, it'll look a lot better than this. This purple wire is for some kind of, or for the kill switch. So I had to shorten that way I can just kind of zip tie everything together. This one I'm not touching. These are for the lights up front, and the speaker's already wired up. These two did not have any power or anything like that, so I just heat shrinked it. This was for the original radio, so he'll be able to use this for power, ground, and accessory in the future. But I'm gonna seal this and pretty much watertight it right now. But overall, we are showing some progress, so we're gonna keep moving on. Still waiting on parts, and then once it's here, I'll show you what I have planned for this boat. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and seal all these and then be done for the day. So I just went ahead and heat shrink this one. Like I said, we're gonna zip tie everything. I went ahead and took care of the radio portion. As you can see right here, power, ground, and remote wire will be going to the back, all fused. Sealed the rear speaker, the stock one, along the other side. All of these are going to be zip tied together. The only one that I had to connect together is these four, as this thing is powering the front speakers. The four in the back are going to be completely running to the amp, but these four has to be wired up for the fronts to still work. Well, that's just lovely. Just now noticed that. So looks like it's gonna need new shocks. Looks like it was only held by one screw. Didn't even notice that, so that's gonna be added to the bill. Yeah, things like these sometimes you just kind of encounter. Yeah, but that will be replaced as well. Make sure you pre-drill every single drill opening before you even drive any screws. That way it prevents it from cracking. Some people don't do it. They just kind of go for, hope for the best, but in this case I don't like taking chances, so I might as well just pre-drill. I pretty much got the battery that he had in here removed. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this battery tray and replace it with a new one that will house 2 of the new batteries. So hopefully these screws come off. Looks like they're using 2 different kinds. Yeah, hopefully that comes off easy. Hopefully the new battery setup is going to fit right here. Makes everything easy. If not, we're going to try to figure something out. Yeah, hopefully these 2 come off. Battery tray secured. Just pretty much got screws all around and then one in the middle. So no way that thing is going anywhere with even 2 heavy batteries. And then we're going to go ahead and seal all the holes that previously drilled into. That way they don't deteriorate. There's quite a bit of, yeah, quite a bit of holes. Here's just some of the parts that we're going to be installing in the boat. Got the bus bars right here. Got the external fuses. So if he wants to add a couple of more things to it, it'll be ready. Some of the marine connectors, marine wiring. I'm still waiting on the 2 gauge and 4 gauge power wires for the amp. But yeah, we're going to keep on moving on this thing, trying to knock out as much as we can. That way when all the big stuff come in, we don't have to do so much more than just kind of like on idle right now. So yeah, I'll show you what that looks like once I get everything planned, and let's pretty much go from there. Here's a rough idea on mounting the bus bars and the fuse block. The 2 batteries are going to be here, so it's going to loop pretty much down, easy access. All the wires are going to be running to this side. Should be fairly pretty good about this side, but it's not going anywhere. It has a little bit of shock absorbing for, I guess, the movement and the splashing in the water deal. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the batteries in, kind of get a rough idea on how it looks in here, and then we'll pretty much start wiring everything up. I'm just finishing up the main power stuff for the boat. I already crimped it. With these copper lugs, you're gonna need a crimper. I'm gonna put the description or the link in the description, but you will need one of these hydraulic crimpers or the manual crimper style. You're also gonna need to get one of these heat shrinks with the glue inside, which I'm also gonna link in the description. I'm gonna link everything in the description as well. But other than that, I'm getting ready to heat shrink all of these. There's more in the boat that's going to need heat shrink, but those are the one that's connected to the motor. So the one in the starter, I'm going to do it in the starter area. So, but for now, I'm going to do all of these, heat shrink it, and show you what that looks like. To speed the process of heat shrinking, you're going to need some kind of heat gun. You can get one from Harbor Freight, or you can get one of those little propane torches. But I like these as it evenly distributes the heat instead of a straight flame that could kind of bubble it sometime. But yeah, just get your little heat gun, and then it'll save you a lot more time, and it looks a lot better in the end. Got pretty much everything done. As you can see, everything is sealed. I still need to do the ones in the boat. I do need to drill a hole for the wires to go through that little board that separates the motor to the battery, so I can get the starter wire in the ground. But overall, like I said, this is all you need. This is pretty much all set, ready to go. Beautiful Sunday morning. Gonna try to work on the boat a little bit, getting a little bit more wiring done. I'm trying to figure out what this wire is. I would assume this is the alternator wire. It's got 3 butt connections that are not even heat shrinked, so kind of beats the purpose. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and check it out just to make sure this is the alternator, as I have to run it to the ignition post, or it's gonna go back down here. Obviously it's fused at least, but if this is the alternator, then it's going to require a little bit more bigger wire than this to try to charge these 2 batteries. This wire right here, we're going to be eliminating. This is going to be running on the actual fuse block right here, and then obviously the ground to the ground post. So went ahead and got heat shrink ring terminals, and let's go ahead and replace this one. I'm also going to try to run it to these 2 holes, pass through, so everything will kind of be behind the exhaust and the cabling. That way there's not going to be anything in this area. It looks a lot more cleaner that way. So I'll show you what that looks like. So everything that the boat came with, as far as like where all the powers are connected before, with just having the 1 battery, everything is going to go to common. The main battery is going to be number 1. So basically it's just going to be kind of like how it only had 1 battery at some point. So whenever you click on number 1, these things would make contact, and then basically that would power the starter, all the electronics in the boat, and separating the number 2, which is going to be the second battery that's powering the amp, radio, and things like that. So like I said, everything that was hooked up to power when it only had 1 battery is all going to go to common right here. So it may look like a mess, but I'm still tightening everything up. This is battery 1. Obviously posted as 1. That's going to go to the main battery. And then number 2 common. This is what all was connected before, so they need to get constant power whenever you give it number 1. Number 2 would be to the second battery, which is going to power the radio and all that jazz. But they were fused, so I just kind of upgraded the fuse a little bit. So the other one was a 30 amp. The other one was a 5 amp, which that 5 amp goes to that little box right there. And the 30 goes to that wire right there. So I just kind of extended it. So yeah, we should be able to get everything put back together now. Mount the switch in the location that it was in before. So far we are making some progress, so still waiting on one more part, and that should pretty much get me going as far as I can go today. I noticed that the wire right here is kind of melting a little bit since it's under a coolant line or water line, so I'm assuming it's getting hot touching, and it kind of just melted through. So I'm going to take it off, loop it over right here along with the ground, that way it's not under directly something that's getting real hot. Alright, it was pretty hot in here in Kansas a little this afternoon, so I had to go back inside and kind of wait for the sun go down a little bit. It is pretty good now, so we're going to go ahead and plan to run the 6-channel RCA for the radio, the bass knob wire, and then the 16.3. Basically this is going to be the ground, accessory, and 12 volts for the actual radio, so we're going to be running that all the way to the back. The nice thing about these Stinger RCAs is that they are labeled front, rear, and sub. That way you don't have to kind of fiddle around and trying to find which one is which. So that's a good little plus right here. So yeah, these are about 30-35 bucks. So here's pretty much the plan. Just kind of put a little bit of tape in certain sections so you can kind of zip tie everything. So that's going to be the bass knob, the 3-wire, 16 gauge, and the RCA. Disregard all these mess. This is what I pretty much removed from this boat. So there's more up there, but that's going to get cleaned up once it's all said and done. So for now, we're going to go ahead and run everything and get everything to the back. Let's go ahead and open up the OFC Amp Kit for the amp. We're still continuing running everything. I just currently zip tied everything to the harness. That one dangling right there is going to be for the speaker right here. So that's already pretty much extended out. Like I said, the 16.3 is going to be for the power for the radio. The 16.2 is that speaker right there. The bass knob, and then the RCA. And then we're going to go ahead and run one more all around that way so we can power that up. So yeah, let's go ahead and open this up, get the power ready, and then zip tie everything. Alright, with this OFC kit, you're only going to need the remote wire, the power. I'll be running a new ground since it's not long enough, but you won't need the RCAs. So just put that aside for now, but you will need the speaker wire. So yeah, you're only going to need a little bit of this. This one's going to be running to the fuse block in the back. So whenever you kick in the battery 2, it'll power up, and then it'll still power up with the option all. So all the batteries are going to be powered up. And then obviously you got the power wire. Ground, like I said, you won't need that. It won't be long enough. So just put that aside for next project. But gonna need all that. So let's get to that. It's Tuesday morning. I was working on the boat. Kansas weather decided it had other plans. Started kind of sprinkling a little bit, so I'm kind of on halt right now, but I did get quite a bit of stuff done. Just running some of the wires, but the switch is functioning properly. I already got some of them tied up in here. Just kind of zip tying harnesses that need to go pretty much away from the exhaust. I still need to clean that up, but I'm just currently wiring stuff in here now, so hopefully we'll be done today. While I'm waiting for the weather to kind of cooperate, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of get these speaker wires prepped and heat shrinked. I do have the cover up, so that kind of helps a little bit, so I'm not getting so wet in here. but I'm gonna do this side, and then these two speakers just to kind of get it out of the way, and then we'll continue tidying up everything in the bay area, and then pretty much wire the radio in, and that should be quite everything pretty much. Oh, I forgot, I do need to add the volt gauge right there, which is going to be mounted in the front as well. That way he can monitor the bank 2 battery. But yeah, let's go ahead and heat shrink this, plug everything in, and then move on to these two speakers. Pretty much got all the speaker connectors done up and prepped. I'm going to go ahead and plug everything to the speakers itself. These ones are going to be tricky because I'm going to have to crawl under over there so I can plug it in. But these two can pretty much just plug in, and I'll quickly heat shrink everything from the back. But overall, the speakers will be done after this, and then we'll move on to other things. Well, the rain picked up quite a bit, so we're gonna go ahead and shut down for now. Wait for it to kind of clear up a little bit, but at least all the speakers are pretty much done. I'm gonna go ahead and tidy up all the wires that's going from this side to this door speaker, or for this speaker right here. But yeah, but for now, we're gonna have to shut down and do some of it later. So I got the speakers pretty much mounted. Terminal, that's what it should look like once it's all sealed. That way the water doesn't get into it. It also has a built-in glue that oozes out whenever you heat it up a little bit. But yeah, that's how it should look, and that's kind of what you need when it comes to like anything marine. So I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie it here just to keep it secure, and then do the other side. Buttoning up everything now. Gonna hook up the batteries to the trickle charge since I can't really start the motor since I'm not hooked up to any water source. But this is just some of the equipment that's needed to do this job. That's why a lot of people hate working on boat stuff, just because you have to haul everything close to the boat, get down, go back up, things like that. But this is just the main little things. There's a lot more than these that I've already kind of used up and completed throughout the whole process, but this would just give you an idea. A lot of different little screws, heat shrinks, your normal sockets, cutters, things like that. Pretty obvious stuff, but for now we're going to go ahead and start playing the speakers and test everything. Hook it up to the trickle charge, that way both of them will charge, and I'm going to go ahead and test the voltage from the batteries to make sure they're working properly. So show you what that looks like. So I ended up adding a 12-volt meter. That way the owner can monitor the bank 2 battery. That way it doesn't get accidentally drawn out or pretty much drained out. This is pulling signal directly from the battery itself, the number 2. So whenever he's using the audio and stuff like that, and they're docked or they're in the water, they're not using number 1. This is number 2 signal. Whenever he cranks over the motor, this will change as battery 1 and battery 2 will be combined. So this will read 13, 14 volts. But right now I'm only doing the battery 2 since, as you can see, the key's not in it. So that's only for the battery 2. Now this will stay on as the battery 2 switch is in the position on. No matter what, the whole boat has to be in the position off whenever he's trailering it or whenever he's storing it for the winter. But it will always get constant signal directly from the battery. Did a last minute add-on. Went ahead and added a switch down here, so it turns on and off the volt gauge, so it's not always on. Quick check. Boom. Another last minute thing that I had to do is I added these little risers. Just cut out a piece of wood, also on the back, just to kind of space out the seat and not seal this area. That way the sub can pretty much breathe in there. But I did notice a sound difference putting the risers before and after. We are going to relocate these push tabs for the little handle right here. We're going to raise it up a little bit to compensate for the little spacers. I had like some spare of these style locking tabs, so I went ahead and added on top. So you can't really see the bottom that much, but it needs to be done. That way it doesn't move around when people step on it. So now the gap is pretty much spaced out. That way the sub can breathe. I went ahead and ordered the new gas lift shock. I can see why this thing broke off. Looks like there's quite a bit of rust in there. So that's an indicator that there's either the screw broke or it was never put on, but I'm gonna put 2 more screws in here. Actually, this one's not even tight, so I'm gonna replace that. But I'm gonna put a little bit thicker screw. That way it'll hold it a lot better in there. I highly doubt that thing is going anywhere. If anything, this would break off before this piece. Can't shake that off, but the whole piece shakes. I'm gonna go ahead and replace the screws in here too. They were pretty loose, so I'm gonna put longer bolts in there. Not bolts, but screws. Just a quick recap. I followed pretty much the Perco instructions. The commons, these were the wires, all the wires that were connected to the main battery before. I just kind of upgraded the fuse. That way it's not one of those little glass tube. This one is going to battery 2 straight, and this one's going to battery 1 per instruction, and they both have 150 amp fuses just to kind of protect it in the event there is a catastrophic failure that would pretty much save the whole boat. But the battery 2 is what's powering the amp in the radio, and also a distribution block, so he can add like lighting and things like that. Nothing crazy. This fuse block is what's powering the radio, and they both are fused. Obviously the ground is right there. The 2 grounds are bridged. So yeah, like I said, I followed the instructions. All of these wires were connected to the main battery when he only had one before, so I just kind of redid it, so now it's in the switch. But yeah, like I said, it's not too bad. All of these, like I said, straight fuse, both of them, and then battery 1, battery 2. So the only thing I'm doing right now is pretty much using up, testing the bank 2 battery. We are on position 2, playing some music for, I don't know, a good 15-20 minutes. I checked these voltage right now. It's at 12.5, and this one is at 12.4 since I am using it. So I'm gonna let it drop down a little bit more, just to make sure it's not pulling battery power from bank 1. And then I have the trickle charger ready. I'll put it on all, or pretty much charge these 2 at number 2 still, and then put it on all, just to make sure there's no interference or anything like that going on in here. But overall, I'm just gonna keep playing music, test it out, and then trickle charge it. I also went ahead and kind of moved the RCA away from the exhaust. As you can see, it has a melting spot. Before that was touching directly to the exhaust, so I just kind of looped it around, kind of make sure it's moved away from it. Along with the other side, this wire right here, as you can see, there's zip ties in there, which I need to cut the excess. But anyway, these wires were leaning directly at the exhaust, which is definitely not good. But I'm gonna move that one as well. I just now noticed that, so I'll go ahead and zip tie that as well. Today is the last day. Gonna go ahead and clean up the mess that I made from working on the boat. Go ahead and vacuum it a little bit, so I can at least let the customer know that the boat is pretty much ready to be picked up. So after this cleaning up, I'm gonna go ahead and take you on a quick recap, just to kind of show you what all is done, just for a reminder, and then show you what it all kind of looks like now, since you've already seen the before. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and clean everything up, and then pretty much show you the recap. Just a quick recap. We rewired the radio, Now it's being powered by the battery too. He's gonna have to turn it on and off manually from that, so he can pretty much listen to the music anytime that the key's not even in the ignition. So I ran a new wire, the RCA, the remote wire for the amp. Like I said, the radio is running on the second battery. The volt gauge is also wired to the second battery, that way he can monitor the voltage. Ran the speaker wire from here all the way to where the amp is, along with this one, and then the two in the bottom. And obviously you've seen what the battery looks like. I already added the strap, that way it's not going to be jumping up and down whenever they're pretty much riding the boat. But other than that, everything is pretty much done. Took a little longer than expected, just because I had to remove all these unnecessary stuff from the boat. But overall, sounds pretty good, and hopefully he likes it. It's about 12 o'clock in the morning, and the boat is pretty much picked up. Everything is done, and that concludes the whole installation.